สวัสดีผู้เข้าร่วมงาน Analyst Meeting ทุกท่านนะครับผม
Hello to all of the analysts joining us today. I'm from Thai Union Feedmill. First of all, I'd like to introduce our executives joining us today. First of all, we have Mr. Banasak Solatakit, our CEO. And our second executive is Tipapson, our CFO. We will be talking about the developments for the third quarter. And as you have seen, our performance has improved dramatically from the first quarter. I'd like to ask our CEO to begin. I'm Balansak Solatakit, and I'd like to say hello to all of our analysts from the various institutions, from the funds, and everyone who is joining us online. Today, I would like to share our earnings results, our operating results for the 9 months of this year. And you can see that in our industry, in the feed industry, you all probably know that this year has been a very challenging year for us in terms of our production factors, productions. And we have been able to adjust in the half year, so our third quarter results are better than our first and second quarter results. In the first quarter, we had a GP of about 7%, and in second quarter it was 7.2%, and in the third quarter it is 11.1%. And the third quarter results are good due to many factors. Most of all, the product portfolio mix adjustment. We are focusing more on higher margin products. And we have reduced or stopped sales of those products that are not leading to any revenue or profits. And our quarter three numbers are better than our first and second quarter. We are growing in terms of our shrimp feed and sea bass feed and swine feed, and the gross profit in those areas is better than others. And we have reduced our freshwater fish feed, various types of fish where the gross profit is not very high. For instance, catfish feed and all, and the chicken feed is a lower margin product as well. And we are seeing more profit in terms of chicken products themselves rather than chicken feed. Our GP is 11.1%, and you can see that our sales in the third quarter, we achieved 1.37 billion Thai baht, increasing by 7.5% from the past quarter. In terms of the year before, we grew by 2.3%. In terms of our sales in tons, in the third quarter, we achieved a higher level, better than quarter two, at 8% increase. And if we look at the value in baht, our sales have increased by 7.5% from quarter two. And this has led to our improving GP. In the third quarter, we have a GP of 153 million baht, and in quarter two, we had 92 million baht. And so the increase was about 66% year on year. And the net profit increased as well. In the third quarter, our net profit was 53. Quarter three is 33.7. And this year is 57.6. So it's increased 70.8%. Our numbers have improved from quarter one and quarter two. And if we look at our breakdown, 90% is in the shrimp feed. And looking at the breakdown again, it is 53% shrimp feed, 37% fish feed, and 8% livestock feed, and other sales are about 1%. Our financial position is still very healthy. Our interest-bearing debt to equity is at 0.13 times. And so this shows that we are doing well in terms of financial management. And we're still within range of our target of not more than 1 times. Let's look at the shrimp feed market. The production for shrimp feed, the shrimp farm production for the year is at about 192,756 tons compared to last year, which was 195,428 tons. That's a decrease of about 1.4%. And at the same time, our company has grown. The shrimp feed has increased by about 15% in terms of volume. And if we include Indonesia, it's about 17%. And this is in terms of volume. And for the entire year, we're looking at 7% for shrimp feed. For sea bass feed, we have grown by 90% in the third quarter. But overall, for the fish feed, it has gone down by about 90%. And we've seen a decrease of 17% in our livestock feed, too. And this is because we were focusing on higher margin products, and we have stopped selling those that have caused us to have lower GP. So our overall picture is better. Let's look at the 9 months for the year. We have grown, like I said, in shrimp feed and fish feed. And we're going to improve our production line. Our Mahachai facility, we have contacted the BOI. We're investing about 180 million baht, and we expect this to be finished within November of this year, and we will start production at the end of this month as well. And this is the progress for the company. Let's have a look at driving our company towards growth. Our vision is to be the producer of the best aquaculture feeds for sustainable business operations. And let's look at our financing, our process, our customers, and our people. These are our focuses: the financial status, process, customer, and people. We have invested this year in R&D. This is the core of our business because R&D will help us to develop our products to have a competitive quality and also to help us make sure that our investment is worthwhile. R&D is important to us so that our costs and we have more choices in terms of raw ingredients. And our R&D expenses increased by 14.5% in the 9 months of this year. In August this year, we implemented SAP, which is an ERP system. We began use of it on the 1st of August. So it's been 3 months now. And this will enable us to have a database, a real-time database, so that we can, and this can support our managerial decision-making and to increase our cost efficiency and help us improve our gross profit. In terms of process, the company is always mindful of the environment, and we have invested in a solar farm and solar rooftop, both in our facilities, such as Mahachai. And this is to reduce the electricity costs. And we're going to look at managing our production costs. Our CFO is working with the related teams in terms of the recipes and the production and analyzing these areas to help us manage our costs and make us more competitive and to enable us to have costs that will allow us to achieve our profit goals. We have to remain competitive. And we're also looking at improving our production facilities. We have automation at our facilities in many areas, especially in terms of packing. That's all under the use of automation and robots. And this will help us in our cost efforts, and it will help us to increase our yields and make them standard. And we expect to be able to reduce our overall costs, and this is something that we have continued to pursue. This year is better than last year, and these are the numbers for the 9 months of this year. In terms of our customers, our goal is to help those who use our products, the farmers, for instance, and to expand our customer base from our existing customers. And when they are able to farm better thanks to our products, then we can expand to more customers. They are looking at larvae, and we help them analyze their costs so that we can reduce production costs, and so that they can also have lower production costs. And in terms of our employees, we want our employees to be multifunctional and for them to have the higher capacity. And employee costs can be high if we don't utilize them as much as possible. In the future, we want to invest in more businesses without having to lay off people. We had a sales team for livestock and for other products, but those who are selling shrimp feed, we're trying to train them to sell livestock feed as well. So those who were selling just fish feed before are also now learning how to sell livestock feed. And this is making the best use of employees in the different locales, the different locations that we're at, so we don't have to waste the transportation costs to send salespeople from a certain area who have a certain expertise to another area. And this is our investment in SAP. Let's move on to our investments in TUKL in Indonesia. We admit that we have started to produce in the beginning of January this year, and we had a management team consisting of Indian individuals, and in the beginning we had issues with COVID and there were inconveniences, and we also had the issue of them not understanding. We did not understand the Indonesian culture at that time. We had issues with learning about the market, so we changed management to Kun Sanpon, who is a Thai, and he is Indonesia, and he has been in the industry of shrimp farming for more than 30 years, and he understands the culture in Indonesia. He understands the market. He understands the customers. He knows the customers. He knows the teams in the industry, and he joined us in August. And we're seeing better sales under his management. And next year, we expect that in July, by next year, we should be able to achieve break-even at Indonesia. In terms of Indonesia, we have improved our sewer system, wastewater treatment system, and we expect that to be completed within November. And our licenses, we have all the licenses that are needed, and this is beneficial for the company to enable us to produce and increase our production for next year. And let's take a look at Pakistan, where we have invested with AMG TFM. That's our joint venture in Pakistan, in Lahore of Pakistan. This last year, Pakistan faced major flooding. This is major flooding for the past 40 years. And trout farming accounts for about 9% of our business, so it has not impacted us that much. And our main sales are in Punjab and Lahore. And these areas did not face too much impact from the major flooding, but there was impact from the raining, which affected the shrimp farming there. And it is now normalizing. And we had not expanded to the market in Galanji just yet. So for Pakistan overall, with the major flooding, it has not affected us significantly. It has affected the growth of the fish, though. And we have donated through AMG TFM to the amount of about 1 million Pakistan rupee, which is equivalent to about 170,000 Thai baht. At first, there was only trout in that business, but we have expanded to goat products, livestock products, and we expect to see better sales because of that expansion in products. And we plan to invest in shrimp feed next year, and this will be the first production facility for shrimp feed in Pakistan. And it is a project that the Pakistani government wants to support so that it can be a new livestock source of income from livestock for the economy. And they can expand their market to China and the Middle East. So those are our investments in Indonesia and Pakistan. Let's take a look at the overall picture in terms of aquaculture. What's interesting is the protein from fish is good for everyone's health. And the protein retention is higher than other animals. It's high quality protein and it's good for your health. And it requires a low MCR. We have fish supply from aquaculture and wild capture. Wild capture since 2000, you can see up to 2019, has decreased from 74% to 52%, down by about 22%. At the same time, from aquaculture has risen from 26% to 48%, and this is because more emphasis has been put on aquaculture production, which requires more feed to support the aquaculture production. This is beneficial for our business. In terms of sustainable development, which is very important for us, we focus on ingredients at all of the farms. I want to share with you that we have the farms here in shrimp farms. They need to have the right land title, land deed, land documentation. And in terms of ingredients, we use fish meal and soybean meal and wheat. Fish meal we used to buy, and we had trouble with IUU at first, but it's no longer a problem. And I believe there is no more illegal fishing here in Thailand. Everyone has to be part of the system now. So we buy from the suppliers and the factories that have been certified, that use fishing ships that have no slave labor. Everything is correct according to the law, and that's why we can guarantee that all of the fish meal that we use comes from certified sources, reliable sources. The same goes for our soybean meal. We purchase this from oil extract facilities in Thailand. They are certified by RTRS, and their soybean comes from plantations that are certified as not causing deforestation issues. We have, remember, the solar rooftop and solar panels. And in the future, we're looking at insect meal. We have already done research. We know that this is alternative protein that can replace fish meal to a certain degree. And at the moment, because the production, our scale is not very large yet, the cost is high in terms of insect meal. So the price of insect meal is higher than fish meal. And fish meal, the advantage of fish meal is that the protein is higher, and the necessary amino acids are higher than insect meal. So insect meal is an alternative protein, just like solar cells, which help reduce our electricity costs, for instance. So in the future, we're looking at this trend of using insect meal as an alternative to fish meal. Let's have a look at our R&D, which I mentioned earlier that we have heavily invested in. Our R&D facility is a separate one, and it's in Samut Sakhon. It's close to another facility, and we have one in Thrang as well. These are our testing facilities for us to test out new recipes, new combinations, and to improve our products so that we can help customers and farmers to be successful in their endeavors. We have robots as part of our automation in our facilities. Both in Ranod and Mahathai, we use robots. I'd like to expand on the robot information. Using robots helps with the labor costs, which may have increased in Thailand. As you know, the labor costs have increased. The labor cost is 2% of cost of goods sold, and the impact from the policy, we expect it to increase to 5% from the volume that we have already. We have helped farmers. We continue to help farmers to be successful in their endeavors. Looking at our raw material costs now. The raw materials that we use, we focus on our product mix to help improve our profit for the third quarter. Soybean meal prices year on year have increased almost 21%, and for the quarter it decreased by 1%. Our expectations are that the prices will still continue to be high in the fourth quarter and in the first quarter of next year. They might soften in the second quarter of next year. There is the possibility of that happening. But we're looking at volatility because we don't know when the Russia-Ukraine war will end. These two countries are major sources of soybean meal. And so this is a variable cost for us in terms of wheat and soybean. And the wheat flour price has increased 42% year on year. The European market or demand is very high for wheat for their bakery industry, and for the quarter on quarter it has increased by 4.8%, which is still in the high range. In terms of fish meal, the year on year increased by 13%, and the quarter on quarter was 1.8% increase. And for maize, it went up 13.4% year on year, and for the quarter on quarter it went up 11%. And you can see this has been a very challenging year for us. We need to focus on managing our key raw material costs. And we're looking to find ways to increase our margin. And in terms of the financial results, I will hand things off to our CFO, Tipapson. Hello, everyone. I'd like to share the earnings results for the third quarter for this year. Let's begin with our sales. Our sales for the third quarter increased from the quarter before and from the year before. The segment that contributed the most was shrimp. Shrimp increased by 17% year on year. And if we look at Q on Q, the growth rate for this quarter is higher than the quarter before, and it increased by 7.5%. And every segment for us, whether it's shrimp, fish, or livestock, has increased every segment. As for the third quarter compared to the third quarter of last year, you'll see that our shrimp feed sales increased by 17% in terms of volume. And this is in line with our strategy for this year that focuses on our key strategy products, which are shrimp. And sea bass has also grown more than last year as well. But our livestock feed sales have dropped a bit from the year before due to our key strategy product is shrimp, and we have chosen some products to focus on only. So we don't have an integrated system for the chicken feed. If we take a look at the breakdown, you can see that the shrimp feed for the third quarter, was for the third quarter of 21 and third quarter of 22 has increased due to our product mix adjustment. In terms of our sales for the 9 months of 2022, they have grown closely in line with 2021, and we've only seen a deep drop of only 0.5%. This is mostly due to shrimp feed sales that have increased in accordance with our strategy. And if we look at the fish feed, the sales have dropped for the 9 months overall. And our key strategy products are sea bass feed, which has grown. As for livestock feed, it is also matching our third quarter. It has dropped because we have given more importance to only certain products, those that we feel are products that can help us be more competitive. If we look at the breakdown for the revenue for the 9 months, you will see that shrimp feed is more than 50%. And this matches our strategy for the year. And also fish feed at about 35%, and livestock feed is at 9%. And if we look at revenue by region, you will see that the main source of revenue is from TFM at about almost 95%. We sell domestically 91% and exports of about 4%. And we have AMG from Pakistan contributing 3% and TUKL contributing 1.4% because we just began operations early at the beginning of this year. So it's very new. Let's take a look at our gross profit margin. I'd like to emphasize, like our CEO, Banlusak, said, that in the first quarter, our GP was at 7% and then 7.2% in the second quarter, but now we are at 17.2% in the third quarter. This is an increase of 65.7% quarter on quarter, and we have returned to a level close to last year. The only difference is 1.2%. What we have done in the third quarter, why have we been able to achieve a significant surge in our gross profit margin up to 65.7%. The first thing, as Mr. Banlak told you, is that we have a strategy for this year to adjust our product mix, and we're giving importance to those products that are leading to better margin. We are not focusing on volume, we are focusing on profit, just like our parent company, Thai Union. If we do a deeper analysis of the GP, in the third quarter, we have ERP, a new system. We're using SAP, which is a new ERP system. We believe that this is a accounting system that is good for manufacturing business and can help us analyze our GP more deeply. And we can do so by salesperson, by SKL, and even by transaction. That's how deep we can analyze these numbers and these areas. Thanks to our in-depth analysis, we also have real-time information which allows us to see our GP yesterday and also the GP of each transaction, and we know which SKU we have to pay attention to. So this makes us more agile and helps us to deal with the volatile environment. Let's take a look at our net profit. You'll see that our net profit for the third quarter has grown by 70% from the second quarter. And the reason for this mainly is our GP that has improved from 7.2% to 11.1%. And this is contributing to our net profit bottom line. And this offsets with the SG&A costs that are higher in the third quarter. We have amortization, depreciation, expenses increasing for SG&A. For year on year, we have expenses in terms of SG&A that are higher, and this has affected our profit, decreasing it from the year before. Our SG&A, the expenses mainly are from our employee costs because we've been invested in employee efficiency and potential. And we have loss from TUKL, which only began operations in 2022, and we have recognized loss from that. If we look at the figure below, you'll see that our profit has improved by 29 million, and TUKL has contributed a loss of 6 million. And the reason for quarter three for TUKL contributing a higher loss, is in the second quarter TUKL had a one-time item. It was deferred tax assets. It was a special item, one-off item. And in the following quarters, we will have deferred tax assets as a regular item. Our deferred tax assets in the third quarter of 9 million, for quarter two was 9 million, and in the third quarter, the deferred tax asset was recognized at 3 million. The difference is from the deferred tax. The company, the management, recognizes the performance of TUKL, and as our CEO said, we have made adjustments in our many areas, including our management team. We have reviewed the costs there, and TUKL has high costs due to interest in Indonesia, which is 9.2%. Our management team understands the impacts and also the trends of increasing interest there. So we have decided to pursue settlement for the debt that are high for TUKL to reduce the TUKL costs. And we believe that TUKL can begin to deliver better performance for us, as Mr. Banlusak, our CEO, has said, in July of next year. We believe that TUKL will break even. The next picture I want to share is the financial position for the company. You'll see that our cash flow for TFM is very strong. In the beginning of the year, we had cash at about 346 million baht. At the end of the year, we have generated cash up to 416 million. We have operating activities 65 million and investing activities of 77 million. Our debt position, you'll see that IBDE, interest-bearing debt to equity, our ratio is at 0.13 times. Our target is 1 times. So this is very low compared to our target. So the increasing interest rate, therefore, will have a small impact for TFM because we have a small portion of debt. And as we said before, TUKL, the managers have decided to settle the long-term loans of those bearing high interest rate. So in the fourth quarter, we expect the ratio to lower even further. And lastly, for 2022, the guidance for the volume compared to the volume of quarter 4 for 2021, we see that the volume for quarter 4 for 2022 will drop from the year before because our strategy focuses on profit and not volume. We focus on key strategy products only. And in terms of the sales price, we expect it to increase from the year before due to the higher raw material costs and also the increasing inflation. In terms of volume for the entire year, the year before it was at 186,000, almost 187,000 tons, and for this year we expect it to reduce because we're going to lower the number of low-margin products from our portfolio. As for capex for this year, we have set it at 330 million Thai baht, and we have used around 39% already, and mostly that was for investment in our shrimp feed facility. As Mr. Balasak said to you, we expect it to be finished by the end of November. And we will have more capex expenditures for this year. And our dividend policy is still the same. We continue to commit to paying out dividends twice a year, not less than 50% of the company's net profit. And that is the end of our presentation. And we'd like to open the floor to both everyone on site and online to pose any questions that you may have. I'm from Gongsi. I noticed that you talked about the use of alternative products for raw materials, changing from fish meal to insect meal. And this is interesting. I'd also like to know, what about alternatives for wheat or soybean? Do you have any? Are there any alternative ingredients for soybean and wheat to help you deal with your costs? I know you. What about the trend for the costs and how are you going to manage those in the future? For insect meal, we have been testing at our R&D facilities and the testing has gone well. But the issue right now is that insect meal is more expensive, where fish meal is 40 to 50 baht per kilogram. but insect meal is 80 to 100 baht per kilogram. So it is an alternative source, but it's not ideal at the moment. If the cost can come down to be about the cost of fish meal, then it would be more attractive as an alternative. And in terms of soybean, we have been doing R&D using fish meal, but it has to do with the shrimp farming. From the farms that we have, we can use 100%, but this has to go together with our management. If we alternate the fish meal with the soybean meal, it depends on the animals themselves, what they prefer. It will affect their consumption. It's difficult to replace soybean meal because this is a key ingredient. We have fermented soybean meal to improve digestion. Soybean meal is usually at 44 to 48%, and if we ferment it, it will increase to 50 to 55%. And this is know-how for each organization. I'd also like to share that our alternative products, we may not have 100% yet, but we have chosen suppliers. We are selecting suppliers that are less expensive for us. Do you have any other questions? I'd like to ask about the gross margin for quarter 4. What is the trend? What is the momentum? And in Pakistan, how is that at the moment? Looking at next year, what importance do you give to it? For the fourth quarter, for livestock, for aquaculture, it'll be a low season because it's entering the cold season. And in Prachuap and Pattani provinces, they will face the monsoon season in the Gulf of Thailand. And we look at the Andaman Sea and Ranong, Satun, Phanga, Phuket, those areas, Krabi, for instance, they will have a lower impact from monsoon season, and they will be more ideal areas. So the numbers will be lower than the third quarter. And in terms of the fish feed as well, if we take a look at the north and northeast, they will be facing colder conditions. And so there will be a lower consumption of aquaculture, and livestock will be more preferred. Chicken and pork will be in higher demand. As for Pakistan, next year we expect it to be better than this year because this year we have faced the problem and the effects of COVID causing a drop in the consumption of fish. And they had faced lockdown just like us. And in the middle of June, they also had heavy monsoons. 3 whole months, June, July, and August. If you watch TV, you would see the situation was very a critical situation for them. And they have trout farms there, but we're not able to sell that much yet because we're just starting out in the market. But we're not facing a lot of impact from the flooding for the trout market. We're sitting in Punjab and Lahore. Those are the cities, and these are the areas where the flooding hasn't been that much. There has been flooding, but not much. But there has been raining, which has caused the colder temperatures, and this means that the fish, the growth of fish is lowered as well because of the colder temperatures. And our expansion plans, we're looking at lowering risk. We're not looking only at fish, we're looking at goats and cow's milk products. We also face the effects from COVID. I plan to travel there by the end of this year to Pakistan. I'd like to ask one more question. You said that in July next year, TUKL in Indonesia, you expected to break even. And this is on the assumption that you can help interest in terms of what level and what about the operations. There are 3 areas. One is the sales that we expect to grow. And our break even is at about 1,500 tons. And in terms of interest, we pay about 2 million baht a month in interest. And we know that this will decrease. Our production costs will lower. Are there any other questions from the floor? Any questions from online? From our audience online? I'd like to ask, a second ago, the gross margin, the momentum has been good for the past 3 quarters. And what about the 4th quarter? You might see it might soften. Is it possible to be in the negative area? What about next year? What do you expect the level to be? For the 4th quarter, we are still waiting to see if we can achieve double digits. This depends on our sales. If you take a look at last October, we're still waiting to see the numbers. I want to see how shrimp will fare with the rains and the flooding. We have customers who have had to escape the rains and the flooding. And so this has affected consumption. If we have sea bass, for instance, the trend with more tourists coming to the country, we expect the sea bass market to improve and sea bass farmers to produce more. That will lead to higher sales for us in our sea bass feed. Sea bass at the moment, 3 to 8 kilograms in weight are good in price. The price has gone up from 150 to 170, up to 200 to 250 baht per kilogram for sea bass. But there are few farmers who raise sea bass because it takes about 2 years to raise sea bass. So they need to have the money to invest in this. So our advantage for Thai Union Feedmill is that we are the only company that is still producing large-sized pellets for feed. I'd like to add to this, the GP for quarter 4, if you look at the GP on a monthly basis, from when we began using SAP in August and September, our GP is on an upward trend. We have data that allows us to be more agile, and we're able to analyze the situation faster and resolve the situation faster. So we expect our quarter 4 numbers to also continue on the uptrend. As for next year, that might be too far away for us to provide any numbers at the moment. So you expect it to be better than the last year, right? Which was at 9.4. Yes, maybe about the same as last year. And you have adjusted your product portfolio, right? Or are you still able to adjust your product portfolio? In terms of our old products, we have adjusted our portfolio. We're at a good level right now. We're looking for newer products that can help our margin. We're looking at, for instance, eel. but the margin is small, and this is a small market at the moment. 10 years ago, we began in the sea bass market. We started it from zero and built it up, and it took us 10 years to build this market. So we're looking at different fish species, not just eel. What about normal situations? Is 10% possible for next year for growth? In the overall picture for next year, is that correct? Yes, that's correct. Our target is about that much. There is a question about your debt settlement in TUKL. The proportion was about how much from the overall debt, and will this help reduce your interest costs? And what about TUKL? Is it a fixed or floated rate? And I'd also like to know about the loss from TUKL from the fourth quarter of last year. The first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. What was the net value? And if you exclude the deferred tax, how much would it be? Allow me to answer this. In terms of our debt settlement, we repaid the long-term loans at about 70%. That's the proportion of the entire debt that we have. But TUKL still has short-term loans that are working capital based. As Mr. Bernlunsak told you, the settlement of the long-term loans, where the interest rate was 9.2%, this has helped to decrease our interest rates by 2 million baht per month. And the long-term loan, according to the schedule, we were supposed to pay up until the year 2026, and the interest would be overall $1.5 million. And this is now a savings for us that we have decided to pursue. There's another question about the loss as well, right? We did not recognize profit, and it was January this year that we recognized these items. The loss for TUKL that contributed to our numbers from the last year was at about 1.3 million. And for the first quarter, it was about 10 million. And for the second quarter, was at 4.6 million, and right now it is at 10.7 million. Are there any other questions? Do you have a target for the gross margin for this year and also the sales, please, in terms of growth? You mean the overall picture or TUKL? The overall sales, for consolidated sales. What is the target for the year? And it comes from pricing by how much percent, from the volume drop for how many percent, and the gross margin, the overall gross margin, what percentage are you looking at? For our sales, as we mentioned earlier, this year we are not looking to focus on volume. We're going to look at, in terms of growth, our third quarter for this year has grown, and we believe that for the fourth quarter we will also continue to see growth, but it will reduce, like Mr. Bernlunsak the fourth quarter is not the peak season for us because shrimp will consume less. Do I understand correctly that quarter on quarter will go down, but year on year will continue to grow for the fourth quarter? Is that correct? The Q on Q will drop because of low season, and for year on year it will continue to grow. Is that correct? In terms of the amount, in terms of sales, our top line sales for the fourth quarter will be at about 1 billion baht, starting from 900 million to 1 billion baht, and we believe it will be in the same range. But our GP, we have to wait and see whether our product portfolio makes adjustments for the 9 months, whether in the fourth quarter it will cause an impact, positive impact, how positive the impact will be. Are there any other questions? If there are no other questions, then I would like to thank everyone for joining us today, for joining both the Thai Union and Thai Union Feedmill meetings. Thank you, everyone.